You have no idea how pleasurable it is to hear the cacophony of sound. Can you imagine walking into this room if it were dead silence? That would be so deadly. Well, good morning. Welcome to this liberal religious congregation. Our organist this morning is Sue Fuhrmann, and our song leader, Cindy Cohen. Good morning to you both. My name is Ed Ostrom, and I'm pleased to be your worship associate this morning. If this is the first time here, or your 99th time, know that you're welcome here. If you come here with pain in your heart, or stress in your life, we hope this environment will ease both. If you come with joy in your heart or with a song on your lips, let's hope it's contagious. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us are not quite there yet because our hearts have been a little beat up this week, and we might have forgotten how to trust, how to be open. Know that your heart is welcome here, no matter how badly it has been bruised. Because here, in this place, this sanctuary, peace resides. Learning resides. Camaraderie resides. People are prepared to listen and to share. Together we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than we awoke this morning. All of this happens in this place called the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. This is a time devoted to celebration and deep connection. We hope you can find that connection with us by opening your heart and by closing down your electronic devices. And now let us prepare our hearts and minds with the prelude. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join by lighting it now. Hear the words of Deborah Burrell. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace. Rise if you're willing and join, please, in the singing of hymn 360, Here We Have Gathered. Standing as we give the unison affirmation. Please join me. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes spirit, its injustice, and transforms the world through loving action. Jim Davis, our speaker this morning, and more officially, Dr. Jim Davis, has been a member of this congregation for more than 2 decades. He lives in the Tallyville section of Delaware with his 2 sons. Jim has been involved with electronics since 1957, beginning as a technician in a radio and TV repair shop. Do you remember the vacuum tube? He continues a scientific career in academic, industrial, and entrepreneurial efforts. He is semi-retired and working on yet another instrument. He keeps his gray cells active by trying to learn Clifford algebra. Dr. Jim Davis.
Some of you may know that exactly a year ago, I was flat on my back in the hospital for 2 weeks. Now, this story is not a woe is me, but rather a journey, an unplanned journey of self-discovery. I twisted the wrong way while tightening lug nuts on my car. As I stood up, a severe pain hit. As a result of a herniated disc. Now, the nerve bundles travel within the spine and then lead from there to various parts of the body. In my case, it was between lumbar 3 and 4 that goes out to the left leg, sometimes called sciatica. Sometimes, interestingly, the injury is at the spine, but the pain is at the leg, at the nerve endings. Sometimes a physical position can be found where the pain is relieved because the cartilage doesn't press so much on the nerve bundle. I was lucky. That was for me, flat on my back. About 90% of the time, this kind of injury will heal itself, requiring only pain medicines, perhaps opioids, and maybe steroids to rev up the process. When severe pain comes, our full attention is directed toward relief. Little else is important. There's no multitasking. We might recall Boswell's biography of 1790, quoting Dr. Johnson as saying, "Depend on it, sir, when a man knows he is to be hung in a fortnight, it concentrates his mind wonderfully." I suppose 100 years ago, I could have looked forward to dying with much suffering. But for modern medicine, I am here today. I do believe, however, 100 years from now, I will be dead. Just imagine if I were able to live to 150, I could rent out a wing of a retirement home and my kids could take care of me. They'd only be 125. I'm especially grateful to the women and men nurses who in the wee hours of the night checked my vitals, provided the meds, and inquired of my comfort. I did notice they always referred to their work as the third shift. They never, ever called it the graveyard shift. From the 7th floor, I could see the medical helicopters approaching, but I couldn't raise my head enough to see them land. July 4 is a deadly holiday, in part because interns and residents have just begun their new assignments and don't know the routines yet. I whiled away my time watching and listening to TV because I couldn't raise my head to do any reading. You quickly lose sight of what day it is. So one night, about 3 a.m., I got tired of the TV having a bucolic video and a long musical loop, maybe a Eric Satie-like. So I switched to WHYY, PBS, only to find there was an infomercial for a book, How to Live Pain-Free. Each day on rounds, the attending physician would inquire of my outlook, really probing for depression, not an uncommon finding. I was always able to answer, "This too will pass, and there are many things that I still want to do." By the time we reach adulthood, we realize our days are numbered, but we know not the number. An answer is available on the web like just about everything else. You just go to deathclock.org, fill in some vitals, and get the number of days and the date of your demise. My number ends on a Wednesday in June. Uncertainties such as the actual date, what the actual date might be, can be hard to accept. Just uncertainty, so much uncertainty. But I've observed that people of this congregation accept and live with what I call anxiety of uncertainty. I've recently learned that Freud offered such an idea, where some people demand an answer, which he labeled fear of the unknown. Arg, I hate it when somebody steals my idea before I can think of it. Some people, however, do demand an absolute answer, true or false, yes or no. You can mess with them if you want by asking them to judge the following as true or false. This statement is false. So, if the statement is true, is the statement false? Or if it is false, is it true? Still, our question remains, how many days? Till whatever the number is, we have a reminder to make every day count. After 2 weeks, the pain, except for being flat on my back, had not resolved, so surgery was indicated. The neurosurgeon scheduled me as an add-on, so I, in my bed, was wheeled to the surgery floor of suites as the day shift disappeared at 5 o'clock. Just then, an emergency case came in, and to act within the golden hour to achieve the most favorable outcome, the critical patient was attended to, while my surgery was delayed until 10 p.m. An hour after the surgery, the sciatica was gone. But there was a new pain just above a pain in the posterior. The next morning I woke to find, well, never mind. That morning, the physical therapist had me walking up and down the aisle with a walker. On my return, my leg buckled, but the walker kept me from falling. This was expected by the PT, but not by me. I admitted that I was distracted looking at the Hewlett-Packard workstation. Although, actually, I was distracted looking at the attractive nurse at the Hewlett-Packard workstation. I mean, what can I say? I was injured, but I wasn't brain dead. It can be humbling to realize that others know more about you than you know about yourself. Some 12 hours after surgery, I was home. Unexpectedly, I found kind cards and emails wishing me well from family, friends, neighbors, and church. My major learning from this journey is that I should offer to others any kindness of which I am capable. Whether our efforts are grand or petite, the result is not always proportional to the effort. I have a fortune cookie that said, "He who waits to do a great deal of good all at once will never do anything." So make that effort, great or small, and do it now without delay, for our days are numbered. Some believe that pain and suffering is good for the soul. I think not. Though it is normal to ask, why me? What did I do wrong to deserve this? Is this how survival of the fittest is supposed to work? Well, that Unitarian, Charles Darwin, did not proclaim an intended progression for us, but only a selection among those adapted to the current and past environment. In other words, Mother Nature doesn't care what we think. So we must recognize we have little control over nature. There is a reality-based saying in the military, incoming rounds have right of way. But of what I can control, I do have faith that giving and accepting kindness is good for the soul. I think it important not to reduce that saying to another fortune cookie. So let's parse the statement. Toxic masculinity rejects accepting kindness. They view it as showing weakness. But that is a loss, not just for the boys, whoever thinks that. Further, others think themselves not worthy of kindness. They've not accepted the worth and dignity of every person, including themselves. So, what is the soul? Unless you know the people talking about it, it's otherwise just another hackneyed cliche like love or world peace. For me, the soul is in the frontal cortex that records our experience and dictates the core of who we are and who we think we are as unique individuals. Some of you may remember what Phineas Gage taught us nearly 2 centuries ago. I hope you will accept on faith when I say giving and accepting kindness is good for the soul.
Here's a thought worth holding on to. If this building and staff did not exist, then we would have to create it. That would require massive amounts of time and treasure. But it does exist. It invites us to appreciate what we have. You are invited to support this congregation with your time, your treasure, and your talents. Monetary contributions can be offered by several means as presented on the screen.
Faith and belief are often used interchangeably, but there is a difference. Now, I'm not going to tell you to change your habits of speech. We both know that that won't work. So let's look at instances where the distinction is made and how it can help you better understand somebody else's meaning or even perhaps your own. The dictionary is not very helpful. One saying, faith, a synonym for faith is belief. But other dictionaries saying belief is acceptance as true based on reasoning, prejudice, authority, or source. Whereas faith is blind acceptance, especially not supported by reason. So you can see there's a good reason for some confusion. Consider the scientific method. Hypotheses are presented in faith. There is nothing from which the hypothesis could have been derived by pure reasoning. Upon experimentation, facts are generated that probe the hypothesis. If proven, it's called a theory, something we believe in. However, no scientist should ever be 100% certain and should be able to say what it is that could disprove any theorem. After all, gravity is just a theory. But Einstein had something to say about that. Disproof was simpler when it was just a hypothesis. So be careful when alternate facts have been generated not using accepted scientific methods. Just a reminder, authority is not necessarily the source of facts or truth. There are politicians, those who are dead are now called statesmen, that understood faith, who declare some ideas are derived from other sources, but not as proof of belief. For example, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Fitting for this 4th of July holiday. Unfortunately, there exist politicians who don't remember the Declaration of Independence is an article of faith, but think it a constitution of laws. Our forefathers, and our foremothers as well, were citizens of the Enlightenment, and our Declaration of Independence was heavily influenced by that philosophy. John Locke, in about 1700, felt that man in his natural state could be brutish and cruel. So he reasoned, no one ought to harm another in his life, liberty, and or property, a form of a golden rule. David Hume, about 50 years later, suggested one might relinquish certain rights in order to achieve liberty for oneself as well as liberty for others, this being a rudiment of democracy. Further, Hume's is-ought problem came to reject inductive reasoning because it cannot be justified by reason alone. In other words, what is now does not necessarily lead to what ought to be in the future. Remember what Darwin said. Also, does it sound familiar? Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Hence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that it is to be taken on faith. Still, there are people who forget these articles of faith and believe that people different from themselves don't deserve certain unalienable rights. They reject the rights of LGBTQ persons, and they may exhibit covert, if not overt, racism. While I suppose it's the purpose of legislators to make laws, unfortunately, not all laws support our unalienable rights. Perhaps you remember the TV series, or more likely, the late-night reruns, Dragnet, where Sergeant Friday would always demand, "Just the facts, ma'am," or "Just the facts, sir." In court, which character witness is more convincing? One who has faith in the character of the accused, or one who believes in the character of the accused? Belief is the stronger statement. Apparently, though, among us gray hairs, a lifetime of experience influences our interpretation of an event. Psychologists have shown that youngsters tend to give a more factual recounting of an incident than we do. Often enough, a discussion with others is to convince ourselves of our own belief. That's our superego at work. We should recognize that there is no logic that will change another's faith. There are no facts to debate. Still, we can marshal our facts to support our belief and disprove another's belief. What happens if we threaten another's beliefs that are core to who they think they are? One way is for them to shut down, leaving you to think you've won. Another is for them to bring forth alternative facts, or even flat-out lies. This is reason not to accept another's facts, just as they should not accept yours. In other words, where is the source of facts? Where is the evidence? However, you should be prepared to reconsider your own beliefs in light of another's presentation. Recall Oliver Cromwell's letter of 1650 to the Church of Scotland, which was supporting the Royalists. "I beseech you in the bowels of Christ, think it possible ye may be mistaken." King Charles had been executed, and the Royalists were strongly defeated by Cromwell. Yet, the tide turned a decade later with the ascension of King Charles II. Well, your beliefs, too, may be mistaken with heavy consequences. Deflating, yes. Recovery comes from realizing we are all imperfect. Each of us is a work in progress. At most, though, we should pity the person who is never wrong or thinks himself so. After all, only the ignorant can know it all. What does it mean to win? Well, perhaps the other agrees your facts are persuasive. Or perhaps the other just wants to end an uncomfortable discussion, or to end what they perceive as your bullying. Of course, you too may choose to walk away, to end the discussion, when you realize the other is acting in faith rather than belief, or maybe acting in bad faith. You might also realize the discussion is fruitless when the Dunning-Kruger effect is evident, which is to say, the other doesn't know what they don't know. But be careful in applying this. It could be you don't know what you don't know. So please be humble before the facts. For me, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. We would do well to practice good journalism in asking who, what, when, where, why, and how, thus getting to the source of facts, that is, the evidence. Also, we would do well to follow journalism practice that puts the most important facts up front, so that if the reader stops reading before the end, the most important facts will have been gleaned. Now, what do we think of miracles, faith, or belief? Let's consider making water into wine. All grape juice is clear, almost colorless when first pressed, the major exception being Concord grape, from which we get that purple grape, Welch's grape juice. As the grape juice ferments, the must or the yeast, that white film on the surface of the grape, alcohol is produced that generally extracts color from the skin to make that colored beverage we call wine. Perhaps that miracle is a metaphor of faith that informs us that we too can turn from something bland into something more substantial. Consider another miracle, feeding of the thousands from 5 loaves of bread. We know that bread rises as yeast converts sugars into CO2 bubbles. The starter yeast can be propagated into dough to make more loaves that are then propagated into even further loaves. Perhaps a metaphor for faith that a few ideas or beliefs can propagate to the thousands. Finally, faith can be equated with trust and matters of the heart. Well, for me, the heart is closer to the center behind the sternum. As an aside, an unexplained radiation of pain down the left arm is a sign of a heart attack. So don't ignore. I lost 2 good friends who did ignore. On the other hand, belief can be equated with a fact, which is a matter of the head. So the bottom line is this: faith is of the heart, belief is of the head. That about covers it.
Thank you, Jim. Let me alert you to some long pauses. They're provided in order to digest some complex thoughts. In silence, and as a community of justice, equity, and compassion, may we offer our empathy and condolences to those in loss and in sorrow. May we offer our congratulations and happiness to those in success and in joy. And finally, may we offer our understanding and grace to ourselves in pride and in regret. Now it's time that your voice be heard. On the count of 3, please say out loud your name. This is different from what we've done in the past. So on 3, please speak out your name. 1, 2, 3. Let's do that again without the microphone. 1, 2, 3. Hear the words of George Washington Carver. How far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant with the weak. Because someday in your life, you will have been or will be all of these. Please rise and join me in the singing of America the Beautiful.
wish to thank Ed, Sue, Cindy, and the AV team for sharing their talents this Sunday. Please join us next Sunday as Kate Franta presents Belonging for Radiant Health. Also, join us in the parish hall for fellowship and refreshments. Now may we take encouragement and courage from the words of Stephen Grillet, who escaped the guillotine to become a Quaker missionary in Philadelphia. I shall pass this way but once. Any good that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again.